watching the monkey.
This is the name of this podcast is The Art of Being with the Act Matrix. I'm one of the hosts, Kevin, and then there's the other host, Phil. And we have David. It's Udelf.
Udelf, long U.
The Udelf one. Okay.
Got it.
And he does sports psychology for sure. And he's going to tell us about his art of doing sports psychology. And I don't know if it includes the Act Matrix or not, but
it absolutely includes the
Okay.
oh, cool.
And,
All right.
and inspired by yourself, actually. When I saw your presentation of the Act Matrix, I believe in Minneapolis.
I was there.
Yeah, I believe you guys did with Benji.
Yep.
And you did a presentation, and for whatever reason, a really important part of sports psychology, really when you boil it down to its most basic element, what you're trying to do with athletes, or for that matter, any performance, is keep them in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment.
We talk about that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I saw you doing that presentation, it immediately hit me as it was so intuitive, and it just hit me. What a great way to use it to teach athletes that this is what it's about, staying in the moment, and that it's all about self-awareness. And it just fell into place for me.
Excellent. Wow.
Nice.
So, yeah, I don't know why it hit me that way. I was attending the workshop because I was just sort of interested. I was not even thinking about sport. I do clinical work and sports psychology,
Okay.
for the record. But it just clicked. I said, this is a great way to teach about being focused and in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing's for sure, when you're participating in a sport, you don't have a lot of time to think.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Any kind of thinking. Do you guys know how long it takes a 90-mile-an-hour fastball to reach the plate from the time it leaves a pitcher's hand?
Oh my, I don't know.
Milliseconds, I'm guessing.
Well, I'm going to demonstrate. You blink your eyes.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
And
That's it.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
And if you're doing any kind of conscious thought, okay, that's going to get in the way.
Yeah, well, that takes far longer than the blink of an eye, right?
Right. One thought is enough to just blank you out.
Yep.
So previous to learning about the Matrix, and please interrupt me if I'm going on too much.
No, you're fine.
Oh, this is
Great. This is great. Yeah.
I can go on a roll, and sometimes, but
We want you to go roll along.
I'll roll. And one of the things about, if you ask a hitter what's the most important thing you're doing when you're hitting a ball, they'll say, when you're hitting, they'll say seeing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yep. Yep.
And so they're very tightly focused. As the pitcher's winding up, the pitcher is concealing the baseball. So they'll be staring at being in the moment, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
staring at the logo on the cap or
Mhm.
the goal, because that's the closest point to which, when the ball comes into, becomes visible, their eyes can quickly transition over to
Mhm.
the ball.
Yep.
So that's being in the moment. It's not about what you're thinking. It's about staring and seeing and reacting, allowing, as I tell athletes, your eyes, your ears, your senses are feeding you information.
Mm-hmm.
And your conscious thinking is going to get in the way of your ability to process that information. So by watching the ball, something that you've practiced 100,000 times before, if you don't interrupt that brain processing, or what they'll call muscle memory,
Yep.
You will be able to respond to that ball more effectively. So, and by teaching that, I've used as I thought about it more recently, really what I'm teaching them, even before I get to the Matrix, is the importance of being in the moment. And so what that means, how you do it, what it means, the senses. I include the proprioceptive, the sense.
Well, yeah, that's important in
Yeah,
sports,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, just the sense of your body.
Yeah.
And so then we go about and we introduce, I kind of introduce the matrix a little bit. I do some preliminary steps first to kind of set them up. And so, but the first thing is the importance of staying in the moment and pointing out to them the things that they're already doing to stay in the moment.
Yeah.
You see a hitter step into the batter's box, you notice that they're going in slowly.
A ritual.
It's a ritual, but if you look at the ritual, they're using their senses.
Yeah.
Into the box.
Yeah, they're digging in with their foot. Right.
They're digging in with they're feeling that, they're sensing that, they're tapping the bat on the all sensory if you really look at it.
Right. Yes.
They're slowing down. One of the things I want them to be aware of is the sense of when they're starting. It's all about awareness. You're starting to speed up. You're starting to rush.
Right.
So if you're familiar with this expression that comes out of the Navy SEALs, they have an expression that says, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
I've heard, yes.
Yes.
And so that becomes a little bit, I'll repeat that because I want them to be able to be aware of when they're rushing. We want them to notice in the vernacular of the matrix, to notice, to be aware of when they're rushing, to then somehow you may be hooked a little bit. You may be inside yourself, in your head. I often say to them, get out of your head and get into the game. Another way of, getting out of that inner experiencing, get into the game, and do something. And that's when you'll see a pitcher step off the mound. That's when you'll see a hitter step out of the box. They're aware of that things aren't right. Thinking too much, they're too focused on their emotions. They're already doing that, but what the matrix does is it lends a structure for them to really understand that. They all do those kinds of things, at least at the professional level and at the collegiate level. But it lends a structure so they really, really get why it is that they're doing that. And then, therefore, I think, can fine-tune it and get even better at it. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's especially in critical situations.
Absolutely.
Right. And well, that's it. And what do they call it? I'm a tennis player. I do a little bit of sports psychology stuff with tennis stuff. And they talk about scoreboard pressure. So, your opponent can pressure you. But then, especially when it's toward the end of a set or the end of a match, or you're in a tiebreaker, you come under what's called scoreboard pressure. And you see a lot of people fold. They lose their focus. They lose the zone. They lose the five senses because of the scoreboard pressure. And the people who are great at it, of course, we know their names in tennis. They're Federer and Nadal and Williams and these people that can maintain.
Polk, don't forget Polk.
Well, Polk lacks the physical prowess, but I'm pretty good at staying in the moment. There's no doubt about that. But that's the trick. That's so once you get to a physical level, even in baseball, there comes a time when there's scoreboard pressure, or you've already struck out 3 times, and now you're up to bat again, and now all kinds of stuff can show up, and that's when if you get a structure, an easy structure to get back to the noticing is what I think of, but the flow. What do they call it in baseball?
Being in the zone.
In the zone.
Yeah, in the zone. Okay.
Yep.
Being in the zone. And by the way, what you're talking about, looking at the scoreboard, I actually had an NFL football coach tell me, I said, they're always talking about being in the moment.
Yep.
So I said to him, I said, well, what do you do to teach athletes as a head coach to be in the moment? And I think I stumped him a little bit because he took a couple of seconds to kind of look at me and he said, well, he didn't really answer the question, but and I'm not going to mention the coach.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would be, but he said, it's not a client, by the way, but he said, I don't want a guy looking at the scoreboard and seeing we're 2 touchdowns behind or two touchdowns ahead right out of the game. And so to relate that to the matrix, because that's really what we're talking about here in addition to sports psychology, a big thing that you mentioned, Kevin, and a big thing that this coach is talking about is getting too focused on the outcome.
Yep.
You can't focus on the out. That gets you nothing. It's like you're chasing a car. It's you know. By the way, it's a metaphor that I like to use, and I'll maybe go into that in a little bit more detail a little bit later here. But you know, when you get overly what I serve with athletes is, okay, you're going to a game, you want to win, you know. Of course, that's a given. Why the heck else are you out there if you're trying to win? If you're a professional or a high-level athlete.
That's their job.
Yep.
That's their job. Of course you're trying. But if that's what your focus is, if you're totally focused, that doesn't get you the win any more than my sitting in my chair. It's like wishing for something.
Yeah. Yelling at the TV set, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I want to be a millionaire.
Yeah, right.
Great. I want to be a millionaire. So I help them identify that over focus on outcome to get them anything. I lead them using the matrix to be aware of that for themselves. They have to make that decision.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then, okay, so what will get you the win? Well, that's your committed actions, your valued, purposeful behaviors.
Well, and in large part is that you can even more so focus on the ball.
Exactly.
Right.
You're being in the moment. What do I need to do here? Winning, yeah, that's an outcome, or we're behind by 2 runs or whatever.
But the ball's still the ball.
Ball is still.
It hasn't changed its shape, its size.
It hasn't changed, and in this moment, it doesn't matter if you're 10 runs ahead or 10 runs behind.
That's right.
What matters is that ball.
That's it, and that's the returning back to that focus of it's the ball, and their job is the ball. Either they hit it, catch it, throw it. In baseball, pretty well. When football, it's either to throw it or catch it, I guess, or hold on to it and run with it.
Yeah.
All of those things, all the same. It's the same field. Everything is the same. The scoreboard doesn't change a thing.
No, it doesn't. and well, you think about the scoreboard is a distraction.
Yeah. It adds another input that pulls your attention away from the ball.
From the zone.
And I often use the example of the New England Patriots when they were behind, trailing in the Super Bowl by 25 points in the third quarter.
I've seen that.
Yep.
You're staring at the scoreboard, but not Tom Brady. Tom Brady was focused on. It looked like nothing was going on. Next play. That was it. No such thing as a 26-point touchdown pass here.
Right.
He just kept playing the game. And by the way, I want to go grab my stuffed metaphor.
Oh, sure.
Great.
Okay.
Props. We love him.
I should have brought him over here because he's a big part of my office. Let me go grab
stuffed metaphor. We can't pass up a stuffed metaphor.
Love it. Yeah.
Here is my.
Oh my God, Eeyore!
Oh, nice.
Right.
Eeyore.
Yes.
And it's really kind of funny because I'll be talking to athletes and they'll be talking about getting down, they're not performing well, and I will just point. Is this what you look like?
Oh dear, oh my.
and it's a very subtle. It's the big part in sport is one of the behaviors that moves you away. I don't know if I would exactly call it an avoidance behavior, but you're sitting there, you're dwelling like this.
Yeah.
Okay. And what does that get you?
Mm-hmm.
Funny thing is, without even referencing Eeyore, we're talking about body language, and they'll even I work with all kinds of kids, all the way up to professional athletes, and they all relate to this. It's really funny.
Oh, yeah.
They'll just gaze at Eeyore and stare at him for a few seconds and almost start laughing at themselves. It gets the point across real. But yes, this is my stuffed metaphor.
I love it. That's exactly, and it also relates to less words.
Yeah.
Which I'm a biggie on less words.
Non-verbal.
Non-verbal.
Absolutely. I don't even need to point it.
No. Just your eyes going to it is enough, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know if you've ever seen it, but somewhere back in the annals of ACT world, acceptance and commitment training and therapy world, there's a picture of a baseball hitter standing there with a giant thought cloud above him. And it's, hold your hands this way, do this, put your feet in this direction. It's all this list of instructions. and of course, the ball is going into the catcher's mitt.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So,
it's funny you mention that because I use humor quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And I have cartoons, which I don't have. They're in I did a presentation at a sports psychology conference and showed them. There's so many cartoons like that in the New Yorker. That, they're great. I mean, literally dozens of them.
Yep.
But I'll actually use that as another way, a nonverbal way of getting across the point.
Mm-hmm.
But really, in that situation, there's only one word: ball.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and when I'm working with younger kids to reinforce that, I'll be hitting off a tee, and I'll say, "Look at the ball," and I repeat, "Ball." Ball as a reinforcement, because I actually will go out. I didn't mention this before, but I'll actually go out and do instruction while they're working on their skill.
Mm-hmm.
And
that would be cool.
Yeah. It's really great. And so I'll do that, and you're actually on the field with them. Baseball is the one game I actually know something about. The other ones, I wouldn't exactly call myself an expert, although I do work with athletes in a number of sports, hockey and running, sports, swimming, all kinds. But baseball is the one that I really know something about. I've done some interesting matrix-related drills right on the field with them.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of which is, now here's something I'll do to reinforce or to get them to understand how their thinking doesn't work very well. Here's what I do. I will say to them, and maybe you guys have done this, I don't know, in the clinical world, I don't know. They'll be telling me some of the things that they're thinking to themselves. And I ask them, well, let me ask you something. If one of your teammates were standing next to you, repeating to you and whispering in your what you're saying to yourself, what would you do? And what do you think they say?
Counts on how violent they are.
Really, exactly. I was thinking of a nonverbal response, not a verbal response.
Well, no, in reference to that, like, it depends how violent. It depends whether are you talking to a tennis player or you're talking to a hockey player.
Well, that's
right. If you're looking at talking to the enforcer in the hockey rink.
If you're trying to a hockey player, you'd probably say, I'm going to stick I'll
elbow you, right?
Yeah, right. High sticking. Right?
But what they'll say usually is, "I'll tell them to shut up."
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
yeah. Well, that's the more polite way of doing it, right?
And then and they get this look on their face. Like, I said, "Well, but yet you're saying it to yourself in your listening," and the light goes on.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a light that goes on.
Yep.
But the way I've incorporated that on the field is I will actually have them write down the lower left hand intrusive thoughts, the left hand of the lower left side.
Lower left quadrant, right?
I have them write them on a 3x5 card, and then I hand it to their teammates. And while they're trying to hit, I have their teammates repeating all.
Yeah. That's great.
And it's fun.
Yep.
A ball doing it. They're laughing. Their teammates are having a ball, and it gets across.
Well, if they practice it enough, they could eventually notice that they could still focus on the ball while that stuff was going on in the background.
Yep.
Just let it be. Let it be. Let it be there.
Yep.
Let it
go ahead and focus on the ball.
Just focus on, and that's what we say. Focus on the ball.
Yep.
Focus on the ball. You can instruct them while they're usually laughing when this is going on.
Yeah.
Of course,
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's just, by the way, diffusing, as you well know. But
you got those passengers showing up.
Exactly. They're diffusing. It's a. By the way, I won't use that term with them.
oh hell no! No.
They might have another response for you if you use that.
I wouldn't. Don't. I don't know. I don't use that.
No, not necessary.
We have enough. Oh yeah. There'll be people on here that won't know that. It's diffusing is simply lessening the power of words on you, and so there's these sticky words like "you're not good enough," and they sting right at first, especially if somebody close to you says, "Hey, you're not good enough," ow, that hurts, But if they say you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, about 1,000 times, pretty soon it's like, well, it has no effect on you. It's diffused, it's lost its power, and so if you can introduce stuff like that, I guess one of the phrases what if I miss? What if I lose? What if I whatever, and they say those out loud over and over again, they lose their sting. They don't have as much power. So then when the person thinks it to themselves later on, it's much less likely to get them off the ball. They can more readily. So that's what we mean by diffusion. In these situations, people can also get hooked up over on the toward side as well.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta win. I gotta, make money for my kids, and all that kind of stuff. Where they're really trying to take right.
And one of the points I make with them is not all inner experiences. Not all of them. A lot of people associate that with unpleasant feelings and unpleasant thoughts. But in sport and in other areas, very pleasant thoughts and very pleasant emotions can get in the way of your sport performance.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure.
We won. We beat our big rival. Yeah. And now we're flexing our muscles all week. And parading around and acting like a high school football team.
Yeah, exactly. And get shellacked in the next game.
Exactly.
Right, because you're not you're not paying attention to the ball. You're trying to live up to that image.
Yeah,
and you created in your head.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if it's a positive thought or a
no. And any of it gets you off the ball.
Yeah, when
most of the sports we could do hockey puck, but anything that draws your attention away from the object that you need to be paying attention to. In high school, if you've fallen madly in love, and the thoughts of the person you're infatuated with keep showing up, well, that's going to get in the way of your performance.
High school gets caught up in so much
drama.
That's a whole other world in and of itself.
That's a whole nother world.
Right. Yeah. But all that high school teenage drama can get into the sports stuff. It does get into the sports stuff.
It absolutely gets in.
But now you can map it. With the matrix, you would map it. Like, okay, well, here's your girlfriend over here. Your thoughts of your girlfriend are over here. And if they show up, and what happens if you start thinking about your girlfriend while you're standing at the plate? Oh, I'm probably not going to be watching the ball. No, you're not.
You're not even watching your girlfriend at that point.
There you go.
I actually, using the matrix, funny that you should mention this, is I explained to them why it was that their coach had prohibited their girlfriends from coming to their games.
Right.
I've heard of this before, right?
Yeah. Yes. Your girlfriend's showing up and standing there doesn't exactly work very well for you. So tell them to stay home.
Well, you're also making me think, David, that back in the day, they used to take the NFL, the football teams, they used to take them away like before the big games, like the Super Bowl, and go hold them up in a hotel somewhere, you know? Keep them away from family and friends and fun for a while so they can do that thing you're talking about.
Yeah, they don't do that as much anymore.
No, not so more.
But I think they've got. I think athletes have gotten better. Because they think of the sports psychology and what coaches are.
They do. There's much more sports psychology around.
They're definitely more workable.
Right.
And just this might make you guys feel good, but teams Major League Baseball teams are very much starting to use the matrix. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, we had one of the psychologists from one of the Major League Baseball teams on this show. So yes, we are aware of that. And,
I had a discussion with him. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, good.
And which is cool. But the first known use of it in a major sports was that I knew of was several years ago with the Australian swim team.
I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
Yep. And now since then it's branched out and it's gotten around, including it's the Dutch water polo team. And I know I can't remember, something in England. Or it happened not England, but the London Olympics, but I can't remember which sport it was. Okay. But baseball, and then also, of all things, mixed martial arts.
Oh, wow. Okay. Who was doing that? Where is that happening?
Oh, man, I would have to go look in my archives to find that out. The guy's in Florida, and I ended up co-writing an article with him for a mixed martial arts magazine. So you can actually find my name in a mixed martial art magazine. Not that I know anything about mixed martial arts, except that during that time I did watch a few of the matches on YouTube and wow, that was intense. But anyway, but once again, it's the same stuff. It's what can show up and get in the way of you focusing on what you need to be focusing on. You need laser focus to do these very high level sports. That you're so the person up against you is probably just as good as you are, and so the difference is your focus and how well you can focus.
Absolutely. And they get that. I think your sophisticated athletes get that focus, being in the moment. The matrix now provides a structure and a process to understand it and put everything they're doing into a structured process.
Right.
So that
and the sports people love that. They love that structure, right?
Oh boy!
Because now they can go practice it, right?
Exactly. They can go practice. Here's what I do, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. You can literally run a drill with it. If you want to think of it, folks, you can start running a drill. Okay, who's important to you? Okay, that. What shows up gets in the way. You can run a football or a baseball drill with it. It's sort of in that mindset. And then what's the most important thing? The ball. The middle, which is fun because right in the middle of the matrix, a lot of times people put a circle, so you can put a ball right there, whatever ball you wanted. I guess you could even put a hockey puck. That would work.
That's a good idea. I think I'm going to do that for my next presentation.
I get the riffing and I think of stuff. It happens. But that's it. I do it for my tennis thing. And David, you'll love this if you'll think about the service courts of a tennis, where the net goes across and there's the 4 service courts. It's the matrix.
Okay.
So I just use the 4 service courts, this side and the other side, of course, and we go through. So you can run the drills that way as well. What I hadn't thought of, and you've given me now, is how I can get people just like you do, and have people stationed in the service courts and yell at people as they're standing there bouncing the ball, getting ready to serve.
In your mind, this is your mind talking.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that would be a really fun drill.
We actually call it a razzle batting practice, or razzle.
Yeah.
We're talking about, I'm your mind, and I don't want you to do well.
Well, yeah, and then you could practice listening to the what we all know as trash talk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
those are the zingers that they're throwing at you, right?
Right. They're, the stuff like, especially, the stuff that you hear down on the football line and stuff, it's just horrible what they're saying to each other. The trash talk.
Yeah, and what's funny is, thank you, you beautiful transition here. They usually don't listen. I'll ask the athlete, I said, well, so tell me, and this is an intentional thing because I'm leading them someplace. I'll say, what about crowd noise? What about trash talk? Is that a distraction? And they say, oh, no.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I'm not. Well, no. I mean, they've learned to let that be background at the pro level.
Yeah,
at
the pro level. Okay, yeah, at the pro level, right?
The pro level.
Yeah.
And they'll say. So then I'll say, and even younger kids will say, crowd noise isn't an issue. So I'll say, okay, well, so, and then we've already talked about, what goes on in their head. And I'll say, well, that's crowd noise. And I said, how is that different from the noise in your head? We've got outside noise and inside noise.
Yeah.
You really want to be paying attention to either one of them.
Yeah, right.
And that clicks with them. It's noise.
Yep.
Trash. I like that word.
It's trash. That's why it's called trash talk, right?
Trash talk out there, trash talk in here.
You got it. Same thing, just the skins in between.
Same thing. One of the things we've been talking a lot about, higher level athletes, and they've really gotten pretty good. I had a guy. I want to talk about the use of this in sports with younger kids, even
because the
children.
The Tom Brady's and the Roger Federers and stuff, they're good at holding focus. That's
they're. I had a NFL football player tell me. He said to me, and just to end the discussion about, at the professional level, he says to me, do you know what it's? He asked me. We were talking. He said, do you know what it's like playing in the Super Bowl? And well, not really from personal. No idea. And he said, I don't look like. Anyhow, he said it's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And I said, well, okay, well, how did that affect your game? He said, well, that doesn't affect my game. He said, you accepted. Now, he didn't know about the Matrix.
No.
Right.
They don't know about the Matrix, but actually they do know about the Matrix.
Well,
but they know about the process.
They know exactly. They know the process.
Right. And he said, you go out and focus on the game.
Yeah.
You're terrified. You accept it. You're willing to be terrified and go play.
Take it with you.
But I often use that and the reason I wanted to mention that through before talking about younger athletes is I use that example with younger athletes. They're experiencing the same things you are as a younger athlete. They're on a bigger venue and they're on a bigger stage, but they're terrified just like sometimes you're terrified or nervous or whatever it is. But one of the things I wanted to say about younger athletes is, I don't know why this is, and maybe this is a piece of research someday. For whatever reason, younger kids seem to get it almost better than adults do.
Well, that's been my experience.
Oh, myself as well.
Has that been your experience?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they got less cognitive. They got less of the inner noise than we do. They haven't experienced as much.
Now, Bill and I have had this discussion dozens of times. Some of the people that can show other people the matrix the best are young people. Young, and when I mean grade school level.
Yep.
Will have a real knack for showing it to other people.
I had a 9-year-old.
Yep, there you go.
I was explaining the matrix. He was dealing with anxiety. It was non-sports related.
Yeah.
The clinical, and he's looking at the matrix, and I explained about dwelling and hooks and the lower left and the mind, and at it, and he looked at it, and he looked at it, and he said one of the most profound things I've ever heard. He said, and I quote, "You know what, Dr. Udelf?" And I go, "What?" "My imagination hates me." Bingo.
You got it.
You got it.
No instruction is needed.
Yeah. No, you're exact. From that point on,
he got it.
He got it. He separated his mind.
Yeah, he did the thing.
Himself.
He did
he did notice the difference between his sensory and mental experiencing. The vertical line.
Yeah. That's
awesome.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
No. Oh no, that's yesterday. I was actually the guest on a podcast yesterday. It wasn't about sports psychology, but sort of we got asked what was the critical stuff about the matrix, and that was what I said: is the mind versus the sensory experiencing. And once you understand how unreliable the mind is, and it's you can sort of give it all the credit that it's worth, which is not much. And go on about your business, you're in a lot better place. Then you've gotten out of your mind and into your life, to quote the Steve Hayes book. But that's exactly what we're talking about with athletes and with youngsters. But youngsters can get it quite quickly. Yes.
I'm just amazed by, and I do get, I do get the concept that they don't have as much experience, as much language jumbling up to get caught up in.
Right. So the earlier they learn how to
do the flexibility.
The flexibility and understand that language is just that. It's just language. And
I also think that they don't have narratives that have built up over.
Well, that's what I mean. Stories. Yeah, they don't have all those
stories.
That
they don't
you
have
and I
stories.
and all everybody else carries around with us. Yes.
Now we did from I can't remember the name of the gentleman that was on from Major League Baseball. Do you remember, Phil?
James Swaback.
James Swaback. And he was talking about the story.
Yep.
Okay, so the story when they show up at their first training is that they're the best that ever was from their town.
That's their story.
That's their story. They're the best that ever was. And then they show up and they got a whole bunch of people.
Other people with the same story.
With the same damn story. And that puts a head trip on them.
And it's also a fairy tale.
Well, it's a fairy tale,
That's your mind telling you stuff that ain't true, right?
But part of what he was working through with them is getting through that story and learning a new narrative. And so it gets out of your head, because at that level, see, they haven't made the big show yet. They haven't made the major leagues, and your head can run havoc with you at that time.
And that's why a lot of having the college experience first, if you're playing college sport, that you'll learn that there before you get to, you've already figured that out by the time you get to the top level.
Very true. Very true.
And hopefully that you don't get you've been able to identify that storyline as a fairy tale.
Yep.
And,
Yeah.
you know, it's just I've got to keep getting better.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
you know, carry that out onto the field, and then it shows up and gets in the way of your performance. And
One of the
that's
things
essentially what we're talking about is all the things necessary for an athlete to come onto the field or the swimming pool or whatever it is, and not let their story get in the way of doing the physical thing that they need to do. They only have a physical thing to do. That's it. There's no other thing to do. There's no story to tell.
It doesn't matter if the story is a fairy tale, a positive fairy tale, the best that ever was, or I suck and I always will.
Right. Right.
Doesn't matter what the story is, it's getting in the way.
The story gets in the way, period. Right. Yeah. You don't, it's not a story out there. It's you and your senses.
It's you and your senses. That's it.
That's the ball in your senses.
And the ball.
and then what all the athletes call the muscle memory. You know, they've done whatever it was tens of thousands of times. Hundreds of thousands of times, and just got to let that take over, because you have no time for thoughts.
You don't have, and I use riding a bicycle. You start thinking about things you do on a bicycle, and they'll easily say you fall off.
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly it. Right. We like that one. So, but the human mind is relentless, isn't it? It just keeps on showing back up.
It keeps showing back up, and the better you are at that awareness that it keeps you, the more it goes, it starts to go in the background. It starts to become like the crowd noise that they just miss.
I was thinking of one. I watch tennis on TV, you know, the tennis channel it's on, and they talked about Rafael or Rafa Nadal. And there was a period of time when he struggled, and what was going on, it was his parents were getting a divorce, and I think also he had an injury around the same time, and they could mark it. You could see in his career where he lost several more matches, but it's where his mind had, and for good reason. I mean, his parents were splitting up, and you know, and things weren't rocking and rolling in his personal life, and it got into his game. I mean, he'd be the first to admit it got in. So none of us are immune from the mind getting in there. Even if you're at that top level, it can get in there, of course.
And part of what you do, in fact, I just went through this with somebody, is that there are stories that are easily dismissed, that there are stories that are just, they are fairy tales, but some of the stories, they're real. I mean, divorce, or you've got an illness, it's not a fairy tale. It's
your spouse got cancer or something, you know.
I mean, and you want to normalize. You help them normalize that. Yeah, of course you have that thought. Of course.
How could you not have that thought? Right.
How could you not? And it's there, and it's real, and you got to make room for it.
Yeah.
That's it. There you go.
You make room for it. You know, it's written. You know, I use another metaphor. It's the wall of life, and somebody just took a very nasty magic marker and wrote graffiti on it.
Yeah.
House has cancer, and you can't erase that.
No. Nope.
You got to learn how to live with it, make room for it, be willing to have that there, and when you don't fight it and turn pain into suffering, as they say, it's going to be there, but that doesn't mean you can't go and do what you got to do.
Exactly. And then you go from there. So, as I say, so even life circumstances will keep showing up. And so we always have work to do with sports people. As you can tell, I love sports. Old tennis
wouldn't
player,
have guessed that.
And I love them, but I think sports are popular, and they have been popular for a millennia, a long time. is because they are such a great metaphor for life and for getting out of your head and into your life. And so, they'll say,
in this case, get out of your head and get into the game.
Into the game, right. But that metaphor of it's the same in your life. You need to get out of your head and into your life. And
Exactly.
and so I think people are drawn to that. And so, but my point in that, I think we can get a lot of mileage and a lot of great stuff out of introducing the matrix into sports psychology. And I would love to see the day that when some sports announcer or something, for whatever reason, goes, oh yeah, and they've been running these drills with this thing called the matrix.
Yeah.
Boom, we did it.
Yeah.
I believe that day is going to come, because I got to tell you, I just gave a presentation in Portland on the matrix and its use in sport. This is with sports psychologists and sports professionals. We had 10 major league teams represented.
Wow.
And there are a number of them that are already starting to use this extensively. In fact, some of them are trying to, we're trying to be, one of the reasons, the big reasons you guys came up with the matrix is you wanted the word diffusion and hexaflex and those things were a little confusing.
We don't want that. No.
They're coming up with a whole, as I have to a degree, a language that athletes will be able to relate to. They're
a shared language.
Always, the trick, folks, and anybody listening to this is to use language of the person you're working with.
Yeah.
Discover their language. Use their language. And some of it's common, the mind and senses and stuff is common to all of us. So the matrix has that already. But if you hear them using other terms, use those terms.
Yeah, exactly. And a couple of the terms that I don't use with younger athletes is mindfulness.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they don't.
They roll their eyes.
Oh yeah.
You've been talking to my mom.
There's lots of, like, I used to work in the veterans hospitals, and I bet you 60% of them don't like that word mindfulness.
Yeah.
So
and kids don't take to it.
Kids don't like it either. So no, we're not. But basically, with athletes, look, come on, folks, we're talking about getting into the zone, the whatever you call it, whatever your sports calls that place, the groove, the zone, whatever. That's what you're going for. The flow. Oh, the flow is another one. That's what you're going for. That's what this is about. And they all relate to that. They know that's where you need to get. And then, well, have you ever had times when something showed up and got in the way of you being in the zone? I'm like, well, yeah. Well, that's so we're going to run drills to try and make it so that happens less. We can't make it zero, but we can make it less if we practice this. That's sort of what you're going at, right?
And it is a practice skill. By the way, I something that you mentioned, practice. I was thinking, how can I'm sitting in a room, I'm not on the athletic field, and I've got 40, 50, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10, all the way up. How can I teach that to them? So here's what I do. I'll say to them, I'm talking to you right now. What's the most important thing you're doing right now? And they respond, what?
Well,
talking, and what's the most important thing they?
Well, we would hope they would say listening.
Listening.
Do they say listening?
They say. Well, some have said walking on it.
Well, that's
what I. See, Phil worked with some trouble.
The ones that I work with, they're going to say, "I'm walking out."
Right. Yeah.
I'm getting out of it. But they'll say listening, and I say, okay, good. What do you listen with?
Yes.
They'll say my ears and my eyes. I say, well, right now, you're practicing a skill. If you can listen to me, just like the people on this podcast, if you can listen to me for an hour and stay focused, you're practicing something that you can, as boring as I might be doing for you guys, is you can take that skill that you're practicing right now and take it right onto the athletic field. And so we talk about
that gets their attention.
Yeah, you made it relevant.
You made it relevant, right?
And all I have to do from then on is I'll say, if I notice, I want you to start noticing when your eyes or your ears drifted away from me, come back. And then we talk about you to just look at me.
Yeah.
I want you to look right between that. And I relate it to their sport. I say, you know what major league pitchers say? And they go, no, what? They say, aim small, miss small.
Yep.
So, the smaller the thing you look at, the more focused you're. So I don't want you to just look at me. I want you to look at me right
there. Yeah.
Right.
And now when they hear that this is they're practicing something that will improve their athletic ability and their performance, they're
leaning in. Yes.
now, and after that, talk about nonverbals. If they wander, and I'll say to them, if I notice, I want you to notice your mind is wandering away, but I may give you some reminders. But then I don't have to say, Jimmy, pay attention.
No.
All I have to do is this.
Just for you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
A nonverbal.
Yeah.
And there they are. I was giving an address to parents and a bunch of 8-year-olds, and the 8-year-olds were making a bunch of noise, but they had already had my training.
Yeah.
The parents are sitting back, and the 8-year-olds are acting like 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
And guys, I usually don't. I just yell to get it and say, gentlemen. And all I did was I went like this. And and the parents are like, why did you do that?
I learned, but see, that's a skill. You taught them a skill.
It's a skill.
That's
It's a skill.
So, folks, that's what we're meaning. You can take this matrix and you can make it into a drill.
Yep.
Make it into a focusing drill. And then you focus. And then the next thing is, well, what can get in the way of the focus? And let's practice that. Do that. Well, we got to sign off. Phil and I have another meeting to go.
Oh, yeah, right.
Sadly enough, but we'll have you back, David.
Thank you.
Find out what other little gems
Yeah.
you've done. And I'll send you a message when I put up my tennis video about the shoot.
Please, I'd love to see that.
Inside on a tennis court.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, well, that's all. You know, then you can start working with tennis people. There's lots of them around.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so we'll be talking to you soon.
Okay. Well, thank
you so much for being on.
Yeah.
The hour flew by, and I really
did.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
we'll have to bring you back on so we can talk more.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Bye now.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you in a minute,
Bye,
Phil.
Eeyore.
Bye, Eeyore.
Bye.
Bye.